in the
Well,
passing game.
let me ask you, John, because you've got a better take on this than an Eagle clouded glasses fan would. What should Eagle fans feel right now about Jalen Hurts? Like from your perspective, and let me elaborate before you answer. In 22, we watched him lead us to the Super Bowl. He was at the top of the MVP race. He had a phenomenal season and he got paid the big money. And I think many created an expectation that with an elite quarterback, you can be in the conversation every year. And I would agree with that. And many in Philly, okay, subscribe to that. Now we have that in Philly. Now you're watching him this year. Um, it doesn't really seem like he's no, I'm not going to say he's not the reason, but he's not playing like an MVP player right now. I mean, he's not doesn't have to do too much. He's more of a game manager. He's more, doing those things well. I'm not taking away from him, but you said the word yesterday. What was the word you used? Did you use indictment on bringing back the RPO because it takes some away from Jalen Hurts? Like, where should we
No,
be? I mean,
I
remember we
don't.
had the conversation about
I
Eli
think
Manning
it's
on this show a couple weeks ago. He won 2 Super Bowls. He wasn't an elite quarterback. Is that what we're in with Jalen
Eli,
Hurts?
not
Is it should
Peyton.
we expect to get back to 22? Like, how should we be viewing this? I think many people are stuck with is Jalen good enough? We keep winning. It seems like he's good enough. It doesn't look like it did in 22. Like, where's the truth in where Jalen Hurts is right now?
I think everybody would like to know that, especially from the Eagles standpoint. What I said was scaling back to an RPO based offense is an indictment of
Yeah,
of
and I
of
think you're right about that. I mean,
of you know the progress where they wanted it to be in the passing game. Now the fact that it's worked out is great, and that's what coaches are supposed to do. But this was not the plan. Like, I think anybody who's going to play revisionist historian and say that the Eagles always plan to play this way is lying to themselves. That's what I'm saying. Um, you know, when you have AJ Brown, when you have Devontae Smith and Dallas Goddard, when he's healthy, and the offensive line and everything that we talked about. And really, if you go back and listen to Howie's and all the discussions we had, and you go back and a lot of people say, I hate Saquon this and I hate if you go back and listen to my words and the way Howie would talk about weapon and the passing game, and I said he's not going to be that relevant in the passing game. He's not that relevant in the passing game. It's got better because they're starting to dump it off more, but the Eagles don't use the running backs in the passing game. They're starting to increase it a little bit, but again, generally not design plays, generally
yeah, he's
dump
not
off some
lining
things
up
in.
as a wide
No.
out on plays or
Well,
anything
the
like that.
ridiculous stuff that
Yeah,
I
none of that's happening.
and I said where they're gonna get better is Saquon's gonna be able to close games better than Miles and DeAndre. Exactly as I envisioned. However, he's been much better than even, 16, 17. He's already at 16, 17, wherever he is. And total yards per, which by the way is a hell of a year. And he's in the conversation to be the MVP, which is amazing in this era for a non-quarterback. But to say that this was the plan is just not true. And the coaches, starting with Nick Sirianni, but also Kellen Moore, deserve credit for rebooting at the bye week and saying, this isn't working. Let's go back to what we do well, which is the RPOs, which is putting people in conflict. You saw it in Baltimore, 3 plays. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. Saquon's going left for 14 yards. Jalen keeper. They're saying,
Right.
"Oh, if you look at the touchdown run, they were worried about 2 plays before. They were worried
Right.
about and all of a sudden Jordan Mailata may have gotten a false start, but whatever. Gets out and kicks out for the big block touchdown. Essentially game over. Um, that's what they do well. But if you're being honest, they were hoping to evolve the quarterback past being so RPO centric. and I haven't done that yet. Doesn't mean they can't win the Super Bowl.
Is that something they're still trying to do, or are they going
That's
to
something
embrace?
they will pick up. No, right now, no. You don't,
Right, you don't
no.
correct in the middle of the season.
They're trying to beat Carolina, and then they're trying to beat Pittsburgh, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When you're in season, you're just trying to beat the next team. Jim Schwartz is the one who told me, off season is for teaching, training camp is for evaluation, regular season's preparation, next bow. And there's a little bit of crossover. There's a little bit of teaching that bleeds into training camp, a little bit of evaluation that bleeds into the early season. But you get the point. Teaching is for the off season. Evaluation, when you get to the latter stages of training camp, who's your best players, who's going to play where, blah, blah, blah. And then preparation, game day preparation, week 1, week 2, all about the next bow. And that's why Nick says he got to ask the question again. Do you bring up number 1 seed to the team? And he said, no, I'm boring. Never. It's about Carolina. That'll be about Pittsburgh. We can talk about number 1 seed. They don't talk about number 1.
They shouldn't. I think that's the right approach, by the way, because if you handle what's in front of you on a week-to-week basis, then that all stuff falls into place anyway. Just like they had the last 8 weeks, and now they're fighting for the 1 seed, which many at 2-2 at the bye week thought this team was going to be another letdown year. So I think that's the right approach for them.
Yeah, it's possible. It's the right approach. Not possible. It's the right approach for everybody. That's how you have to do it.
Yeah.
If you're not doing it like that, you're going to be in trouble pretty
Oh, we're a
quick.
talk show. I mean, it's different.
No, I'm talking about the teams. We can do it all we want. I'm talking about teams. I cringe when people ask that question because I know the answer and you're wasting a question. Like, it's a waste of a question. Like, I mean, what do you think? What do you think? NFL, have you ever heard any NFL coach say, oh yeah, we're thinking about 4 weeks down the road? I mean, it's a waste. It's a waste of a question. So from a personal standpoint, a reporter standpoint, it's an absolute waste of time. But you do understand the process of they have to focus on 1 week. And I always talk about they have to be relentlessly optimistic. I can never be a coach because you have to be relentlessly optimistic, especially on a losing team, because you got to go back into work every day and try to get better and try to get better. And there's different standards, obviously, when you're, you get a feel when you're a rebuilding team, when you're a mediocre team, when you're a really good team. There's a little bit of difference from that perspective. And obviously the Eagles are a really good team. But yeah, they will never look ahead to number 1 seeds or how do we match up with Detroit 6 weeks away or 8 weeks away. So many things can happen. Number 1, what if Jalen gets hurt? We talk about Jalen not evolving. Well, I guess what? They don't have him. They're screwed.
We're done.
Same thing but same thing everywhere, whether it's Jared Goff or Jordan Love.
I'm Kenny Pickett's number 1 hater.
I know you don't like Kenny.
I'm not a Kenny guy. If we have Kenny Pickett,
nobody's seen Kenny play in Philadelphia. They don't like him. Not everybody.
Hang him up for the year. If we get Kenny Pickett in there,
well, that's what we were talking about 2017, and that place was like a morgue coming back from Los Angeles.
Yeah, it was.
After Carson got hurt, and look what happened. I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to do that.
Yeah,
but
come on, John. Don't tell me Kenny Flickett is like the great Nick Foles. Let's read a couple super chats because we got Chris Franklin coming up.
Great Nick Foles.
Super Bowl champion.
Good guy. John. Good guy, Nick Foles.
Yeah, but listen, he was great for a moment in Philly, and that means he will be immortal in this city.
Had one of the most interesting careers.
He really did. It's amazing what he did. 7 touchdown passes, and then he's just done so many things all over there.
So many weird things.
Yeah.
He still got the Eagles record for 400-yard passing games.
Doesn't surprise me. Josh, I don't think Jalen will be taking that from him either. Josh B says, surprised they don't take a victory Monday for the Panthers. Think they will take one before the Steelers. I think he's talking about that practice thing where Nick said we're going to be back to work. You do wonder with that early bye week, maybe they start to try and rest these guys later in the year. I don't know. Nick seems to be
Yeah, that's
right
like
now. We haven't
that's
done
like
anything. Let's get back to work, which I'm okay with. I like that too. But
yeah,
little
I
different than the
mean,
organizational
I
approach.
think more of it's Wednesday. They practice. This is the time of year where they would scale back to walkthrough Wednesdays, and I think that has to like Monday's about coming in and watching film and lifting and that kind of stuff. Even when you are working, um, it's not like you're out there practicing. Just recovery and stuff like that. And he mentioned, you know, the lifting period and stuff like that. It's not heavy practice workload. I think the big difference on Wednesday, that has a lot to do with Vic. Vic pushed for that.
Yeah, I saw an article in Bleeding Green Nation about that. We'll talk to BLG about that this week.
Yeah, he pushed for that. He's been pushing for that since training camp to practice a little bit more. And there's only so much you can do. There's limitations from the CBA. So I think the assumption is, well, they put on the pads every Wednesday. No, they can't by CBA restrictions, but they do it more. And their philosophy with pre-Vic was at this stage, certainly when you head into December, they would go back to completely scale back to walkthroughs on Wednesday. And that's changed a little bit, but yeah, and that's because of Vic. But when you're good, people are going to point to stuff like that. Um, but they're good because of the players.
Yeah.
And I don't want to because Vic is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. So, I've learned enough at this stage of being around him that the reputation is deserved. But again, if he had crappy players, they wouldn't be. Now he deserves credit for discovering people like Zach Bond
Yeah, I
and
was gonna say. I mean, he's done a pretty good job still, though, making people not garbage. I mean, I know you need good players. Obviously, it's a credit to Howie for putting good guys in front of him, but he has certainly gotten the most out of
no,
them.
when that's the thing. I
Yeah.
mean, Chris Long. I saw Chris talking about so there's so many players in the NFL that are just used incorrectly, and you never even know about it. So he's got the ability to identify somebody like Zach Bond, where everybody says he's this, and Vic goes, well, no, I think he's this. And again, most, especially younger, they don't have the cachet to do stuff like that. Like that's a big thing that I think people don't realize between the difference between Sean Desai and Vic Fangio. Um, Sean didn't have the gravitas, the cachet, whatever word you want to use to do stuff that Vic does. And Vic says something and people go, okay, because of his reputation. And it takes a long time to build that up
Yes, it
and a
does.
lot of
40.
success
Yeah.
where people trust you and they give you the benefit of the doubt. Whereas younger coaches, a lot of players will say, well, that's stupid. I don't want to do that or things like that. So it's a lot of little things that go into it.
Good stuff there. James Carver checks in on the Jalen Hurts discussion and says, I think Jalen hasn't taken a step back, but he hasn't taken a great step forward beyond managing his sacks, etc., because his stats from Sunday overlooked that he threw away 4 passes to avoid sacks, and thus he was really 11 of 15. He's okay at the moment. I do think that's interesting context, the 4 throwaways,
Well,
but
all throwaways are not created equal. You can
exactly.
say, was there a play there to be made, but he held on to the football. That's been one of his issues. And then if you're holding on to the football and you miss the open window, and then hey, it's great that you flush out and you don't lose yardage.
Right, but if you missed a read, then it's
But if
not
you
right.
missed a read, you missed a read, and you left
Exactly.
meat on the bone. So all throwaways are not automatically, oh, that's a good job by the quarterback um, to limit, not getting a sack. It's always good not to get a sack, but I always go back to that 4th and 3 play to A.J. Brown. That was there, but he didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So if you don't pull the trigger and then you avoid the sack, all right, you recovered, and it could have been worse, but it's not good. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no doubt. Prince says Jalen's strength is the RPO. He's more decisive, knows where to go with the ball, and runs fluidly when he's in it. Why are we moving away from his strength? He attacks the middle of the field in the RPO. He does look better in it. I mean, Prince, but to
They're
John's
not. Well,
point,
how are they moving away? They're moving toward it.
yeah, they're
That's the
moving back
point
toward it.
of
I think Prince
that's what I'm
wants to see
saying.
it full time and a full embracing of it.
I think they have embraced it. But I
Yeah.
think if you go back to the summer, and I'm not saying Prince, but the majority of fans were all hyper focused on, we got to have motion. We got to
Yeah,
do this. We
I
got to
thought
do.
pro style offense was coming.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not afraid to admit that. I'm okay with where we are, but to say that we expected this, I think, is not being honest.
But to his point, why are we moving away from his strength? They're doing the exact opposite. They're moving toward his strength, and that is his strength. And that's why they're moving toward it. And people should applaud Kellen Moore for doing that. But again, it's not what was expected, is all I'm trying to say. And to assume that this was the plan of the Philadelphia Eagles is also revisionist history.
Prince says, I disagree with that. I don't know what you disagree with, Prince. Sorry, I missed this when it came in. I saw a Lions team struggle to score points in the second half against the Bears. Scores have been down throughout the league. Yeah, that's not wrong. It was written, says 42, 26, and 1 Super Bowl appearance, 4 playoffs. Jalen's okay. You're not wrong about that, my friend. There's a lot of winning going on in Philly since him and Nick Sirianni showed up. So got to give them their credit there. Let's get to our commercial break. We'll get to Chris Franklin. Chris, good to see you in the green room, brother. We'll talk to you in 3 minutes. Right after the break. Before I do that, let me tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa and use the promo code you see on the screen. It's YouTube150. It gives you 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit. You get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody, with Chris Franklin on Birds 365.